Hi everyone! Today I thought I'd talk to you about some of the similarities and differences between Danish and American schools. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're new to my channel, my name is Kelly and I'm an American who lives in Denmark. But more importantly, I have been a teacher in an American school for the last 13 years. I was a teacher at American high school and I worked in schools even before then. Worked in elementary schools and junior highs and high schools all throughout my teacher training and then as an actual teacher for 13 years. When I moved to Denmark, I actually taught here in a folkeskole for 2.5 years, and I am now currently in a Danish college. So I have experience in both American and Danish schools. I also did all of my own personal education in the US, all in public schools. So from the very first day of grade 0, which in the US we call kindergarten, all the way through my master's degree, I did that in the US in public schools. So I have a lot of experience. So that's one thing that you're going to be getting here is not just ideas of things that I've heard, but you're going to be getting real examples and experiences from both countries, from what I have experienced either as a student, as a teacher, or as a mother. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the red subscribe button so you can come back and you can check out my videos, ring the bell so you get notifications when I post a new video, which is usually about every week, and I would love to have you come along on some more of them. Now, before we get started with this list, I want to ask that if you are an American or if you're Danish or you have gone to school in either country, that you let me know in the comments some of your own personal experiences, either as a student, as a teacher, or as a parent. I say that because the next thing that I'm going to say is that if you don't have experience with these things, don't leave a comment making it seem like you do. I see that sometimes, not often, when I read my comments, people make statements that are completely untrue because it's something that they've seen in a movie or on TV or that they've read about. But because it's hearsay, it's not actually something that they've experienced. This channel is all about my experiences moving from the US to Denmark, and I would really love to kind of bridge the gap to show you some of the similarities and differences. But please don't use the comment section as your own personal space to rant about what you like and you don't like about something that you don't know anything about. Please be very constructive in those comments and give me your experiences. That's what we're here to do, is to learn from personal experiences. Now with that out of the way, let's get started. The first thing that I want to mention is school uniforms. In Denmark, they don't have school uniforms, but in the US, some schools do, but some schools don't. Not all schools do in the US. I have never been a student or a teacher in any school in the US that has had uniforms. My nephews go to school where they wear uniforms, and they lived in the same town. So it's all dependent upon the school that you go to. A lot of times private schools will wear uniforms, maybe charter or magnet schools, they're kind of specialty schools, will use uniforms, but that's all different. It's not to say though that they don't have dress codes. In the US, there is a certain rule book that you have to follow. It's called a student handbook. And in that, it will explain what you're allowed to wear and what you're not allowed to wear. Sometimes you could be in a school that will not allow you to wear holes in your jeans at all, for example. And I actually worked at a school that did not allow holes in the jeans, and we were supposed to check the students every day. And if they had holes in their jeans, then they had to change into their PE clothes. Girls, their skirts had to be so long they couldn't be short skirts. I worked in an American high school, so I dealt with teenagers, anywhere from 13 to 19, depending. And so those rules may be different than what you would get in a elementary school where you have really young children, where you probably don't have those issues, maybe. So that's one thing. In Denmark, I have never seen anywhere where there is a dress code. I could be wrong, so let me know in the comments if you've gone to a school that had a dress code. In American high schools, there could be, you can't wear anything that has to do with drugs or alcohol on your shirt or anything that has any bad words on it. If it does, you would have to change your clothes and things like that. But it depends on each school. Each school will have their own handbook and will have their own set of rules, so it's really just something that you have to check on if you are going to an American school. Denmark, I don't know if they have student handbooks. I haven't seen one, but they're not so concerned with what the kids are wearing. It's funny though, that also goes the same for teachers, because as a teacher in the US, I was never allowed to wear jeans, for example. I always had to wear either a dress or skirt or dress pants. And that was just the rule for the teacher handbook. The teachers also had their set of rules and also their own dress code. That might be different if you are in a different school. Every school is different, so it's all depending upon where you go. So we can't say that every school is the same, because that's not true. In Denmark, though, I have, as a teacher and as a mom going and picking up my kids, I noticed that the teachers pretty much wear whatever they want, and jeans is acceptable. Another thing that was very difficult for me when I first moved here as a teacher is that the students call their teachers by their first name. In the US, I would be called Mrs. and then my last name. I was a German teacher for many years, so my students called me Frau. And I really learned to love the name Frau because it was something that they called me. It's like when my children call me mom. I love the word mom because it has a good meaning for it. And it was the same thing with being called Frau. And I just loved that. And 13 years of being called something, and then all of a sudden you move to a place that says, that's not the Danish way, they will not be calling you that. I'm thinking, what? I hated it. I was okay that they called me Kelly, but I really would have loved that my German students continued to call me Frau in the classroom. Outside the classroom, they can call me Kelly. Anyways, but my students all call their teachers by the first name. It bothers me because I feel that as an American, the way that we talk to adults is different than the way that we talk to people our own age. So I know that when we go to the US, or if I introduce my children to an American, I tend to put the Miss or the Mr. in front of it, just so that way they understand that when you go to a different country, there may be different expectations than Denmark. Denmark is not always the way that things are going to be. Sometimes I feel like whenever I talk to anybody from another country, it just seems like Denmark is so different from everything else. There's so many other countries where you call people that are older by the Mr. and Mrs. And in Denmark, it's not like that. So I want my kids to know that when they go to a different place, this is what's accepted in this country. But that's how things go here in Denmark. Another thing that was very different, and we kind of make some adjustments in our house, is that in Denmark, they actually don't give homework. And again, it's depending upon the teacher, not even by the school, because my younger son's in first grade and his teacher requires him to read every single day. But my other son is in third grade and his teacher doesn't ask him to do anything. Occasionally there'll be this homework assignment that goes out maybe once every couple of months that's a family activity that we have to do together. So they don't have any homework, but they also don't have any grades. So it's not like they get a pass-fail when they're younger or anything like that. They tend to not get grades until they get to be older. Maybe like 8th or 9th grade is when they actually get a report card. I have not seen a report card for my kids. I can ask the teachers how they're doing, but they don't have any physical evidence really to hand to me and say, well, here's this and here's that. Parent-teacher conferences is pretty straightforward. It's just talking the whole time. And a lot of times we talk just about social things. It's not about testing. Even though they do national testing in Denmark, it's not the same as national testing in the US, but they don't have any homework. So that's something that if you're coming from the US to Denmark, I mean, there's definitely some worries for me, but I'm trying to be relaxed about it. I'm just making sure that they're reading, because I think that people who read have more of an opportunity than people who just don't do anything. So there's no homework. And like I said with that, there's no grades. So I really don't know if my children are prepared in a certain topic or subject by looking at report cards. I would have to ask the teachers individually. And sometimes, as a teacher myself, I feel like, well, if they're not where they need to be, then I can kind of fill in the gaps and I can make things a little bit better for them and practice at home. But I have really no idea if they're lacking anything. But I guess if the teachers aren't worried, then I shouldn't be worried. So that's my mentality right now. Another thing that is different in Denmark is that they have a lot of group work. And when I think about me in the college, and you can check out my video, I'll put a link here where I talk about my experiences as a person who went back to school at a Danish college. They do a lot of group work in the older years, and you see that a lot in like high schools and higher up grades. But in elementary school, my kids go to something that's called in-schooling, which is the first 4 years of elementary school. So it's 0 through 3. And they're kind of grouped into the one section. Then they have mellentrin, which is the middle years. And then they have, I don't even know what they call those older kids. I'm not there yet. But then there's an older group because schools go all the way up through 9th grade. And with the kids who are in these younger groups, they do group work. I do tend to see that they have more individual and more teacher kind of helping them in the classroom and everything. But it's interesting that they have these things called subject weeks, where they'll take a week and maybe it's the whole school or maybe it's the whole in-schooling section, and they will do something special that week. And it's usually all group work kind of thing. And they try to blend the kids. So they take, so many kids from each grade and make them a group. They actually did this last spring. My son was in kindergarten and my other son was in 2nd grade. And they were blended with kids from the entire school. So he had kids in his group that were in 9th grade and kids in his group that were in 5th grade. And it was just a mix. And it's really kind of interesting because they let the kids create something and they come up with their own ideas. And I thought it was really kind of special. And I'm sure it made him feel like a big boy to be doing things with older kids. So they had that. I mean, usually in the US with elementary schools, we have like these themed units where maybe a couple of weeks and maybe all of the teachers are working on like Native Americans, and at the end they'll do some sort of project or whatever. But it's not like a week where it's, hey, let's talk about water or let's talk about recycling or something, and then they're doing something creative. A lot of times it's very like creative, artsy, hands-on. It's very interesting. Now, with regards to group work and individual work, homework and grades and all of that, now that differs depending on what kind of school you go to in Denmark. Every public school pretty much is like that. But if you go to a private school or an international school, international schools tend to give the kids grades because they do a lot of external exams. So the testing that they do with the kids goes out of the country. And those kids are going from country to country. So it's different with the kids who are in Denmark. So there is my experience as a teacher. I worked in an international school and we did give our students grades. Another thing that I think is interesting, I'm talking about my kids, they're in 1st and 3rd grade, and their schedule is, well, it's just weird. When I think of elementary school students in the US, they will have, and it's crazy, they might have English this day, or they'll do English for an hour and a half, and then they'll have 20 minutes of science and then they have 20 minutes of math, or I don't know, but you know, it's all broken up into how many minutes you get. In Denmark, for those same kids in elementary school, it's broken up into like 45-minute blocks, which is a lot like an American high school. And that's the way that it is all throughout. So my son has a schedule where he might have, his first 2 lessons might be Danish, where he's learning how to read and write. And then after that, he might have music class. And then after that, he might have reading. You know what I mean? And they're all 45-minute chunks. So the way that they schedule the classes is very similar to what we would do in American high school. It's different that in an American high school, you would have the same schedule every single day. So you would go to school on a Monday and you would have all these classes, you know, math, English, science, whatever. And then Tuesday would be the exact same schedule. And then Wednesday, and then it would be the exact same schedule every single day. But here, from grade 0 all the way through, theirs are different every day. So Monday might have a schedule. Every Monday, your schedule is the same. Every Tuesday, it's going to be a completely new schedule. So you may have, you know, you started off here with Danish and math and reading and whatever, but then here you start your day with PE and sport, and then you go on to religion. And that's a thing, they actually have religion. It's called Christendom here in Denmark. And it's not to say that they go through and teach Christianity, but they do that, but they also talk about other religions. So it's kind of a mixture of the two depending on what grade you're in. But the thing is that their class schedule will have more Danish classes than anything else spread out throughout the week. And then they might have like 1 religion class the whole week. And they might have 1 music class the whole week, kind of thing like that. So it's different because, in an American elementary school, that would be the same. Maybe you would have, oh, well, Tuesdays is our day to have PE or something like that. But in an American high school, you would have PE every single day. You would have music every single day. It's very different. It's very interesting for us, but I think it gets them started young. If that's the way that it's going to be pretty much for every year, then my kids are getting used to that. That's all we have for part 1 of this video. Part 2 is coming out very soon. Please check that out. I didn't want the video to go too long, so I wanted to make 2 separate videos, so it was a little bit easier for you guys to watch. I have an article on my blog of the differences between Danish public schools and international schools. I'll put a link down in the descriptions for you to check out. It gives you a lot of pros and cons for which type of school to choose in which situation, so maybe that'll help you out. There's a post, I'm going to put that one down below too, where you can find out what are all the special holidays for Denmark that maybe your kids will have off of school, so you know when they are and what they're all about. There's going to be another one coming soon that talks about being a kid in Denmark and what are some things that you can expect to find in your schools. The blog has a lot more information about going to school in Denmark, more practical information, especially if you're a foreigner in Denmark. Be sure to check that out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone else that you feel that could really benefit from this content. Thanks for coming along on this one, and I'll see you next time. Take care.